Welcome back to Sendspark Studio South. Here not as sunny today, Austin, Texas. Humanize your outreach and send a video. Today we've got Amy Volas, founder of Avenue Talent Partners, and they specialize in helping startups hire sales and CS leadership. Quick question, Amy, where did you get those frames? They're fantastic.
Thank you. I got them in a place that no longer makes them, and I've had them for a while, and I appreciate it because my husband hates them. So now this will be recorded. So every time he's like, why are you wearing those glasses? I can just replay it for him. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Amy, would you like to jump into our questions?
Let's do this thing.
Amy, my niece listens to this podcast. She's 8 years old. Can you explain what you do at Avenue Talent Partners in a way that an 8-year-old would understand?
Yes. Here's how I would explain it to your niece. I help companies that make technology that help you play with that iPad, hire people that help make sure you get that iPad and you can buy it and you can keep it because they are the ones that will sell it to the company that you get it from.
All right. And that was our Explain Like I'm 8 segment. It's kind of a ripoff from Reddit, Explain Like I'm 5. The truth is it started as explain what you do for me like I'm 5 because I'm not as smart as I look. It's just the eyeglasses today. Thank you for sharing that, Amy. Obviously, you source talent for companies, but I like that exercise. I think there's a lot of people that make their job or what they do a lot more complicated than it needs to be. So that's what that little exercise is for.
I love it. I do a similar thing with the folks I work with. So this is great. If I ask people to do that and then I can't do that, then that's super hypocritical, right? So love the question.
Very hypocritical. You're right. Amy, one of the questions that everyone likes to get and talk through is it's called the superhero origin story. What is your superhero origin story? You're bit by a spider moment. You looked at the world one way and then something happened and it's led you to where you are today.
So when I was a kid, I was bitten by the James Bond super secret spy bug. And it was a tradition and a thing that I started doing with my grandfather when I was a kid. And I thought that I would be the female version of 007. And I went to college and I studied criminal justice and I thought all these things were going to happen. And then I found out what the gig would actually entail. And that freaked me out. And that was called No. And I would probably be the first person to get killed in a secret spy scenario. And so I had to figure out what I wanted to do. And true story, one of the very first things that I did was being a technical recruiter. And this is before the term startup happened. And the thing that I knew is I really, whatever it is that I wanted to do, I needed to do it with people. And that's always been a common thread for me. So then, 9/11 happens and that's not at all a good thing and a scary thing. And that plummeted so many companies into this thing called a recession. That was the first recession that I survived. Why am I telling you this? I worked at a company that was a startup, but we didn't call them startups then. They were .coms. And so I had survived a bunch of layoffs and I didn't realize that sales and hiring and recruiting were so similar. And I remember going out to Denver, which is where the company was based. And the CEO and founder sat me down and he was like, guess what? There is nothing to recruit here. And we really don't have a place for you for that. That's not a need for the business, but we love you and we want you to stick around. And so if you want to stick around, you're going to have to get into sales. By the way, I cringed at the thought of sales. I was like, ugh, I don't want to be one of those people. And every single stereotype that we hear about, all those things, I had that in my brain. And that was the catalyst that really changed my life in the sense that it was gnarly enterprise sales. I had no idea what I was doing. There was no budget, time, or anything to give me training. And I loved it. I got bitten by that bug and the rest is history for my sales career. And fast forward to spending all of my sales career inside the HR tech recruiting talent acquisition place, selling products and services. And I was a leader too, and all that stuff. I had the same cringeworthy sort of thing, and I still do to a certain degree, about recruiting. And lo and behold, I own an executive search firm. And so it's funny how what we think we will never do that is just icky doesn't have to be that way when you care a whole lot about why. So that is my story.
What challenge are you solving today and how are you solving that differently?
I work with earlier stage or early stage startup founders, and we help them hire sales and CS leaders. That's a really big deal. That affects getting revenue, keeping revenue, growing revenue, like all that stuff. And there is is something that has been happening, and it bums me out, and it doesn't have to be that way, is the turnover that we see in the space is out of hand. And so that's really the problem that I'm solving. And it's interesting. I had a meeting earlier today and we were talking about this, and we were talking about why I might be different. And I think the thing that makes what I do special and unique is everything that made me super successful in my sales career. And as an individual contributor, I've sold over $100 million in revenue on my own. That's not with partnerships. That's not anything else. And I learned a ton through that of what to do, what not to do, made every mistake and so many more. And I really cared about doubling down on doing it well. And the same thing holds true for recruiting. It's not just something that you do. It's not just having a conversation. It's not just meeting a person. It's not just looking at a network. It's not just being introduced to somebody. And it's not just showing up to ask questions. There is an art and a science and a structure around it, just like in sales. And people are the foundation to it, but there's a different way. And so that is the problem that I'm solving, is to help founders and the leaders that we work with make better decisions to avoid really painful outcomes later because you were misaligned. So that's my jam.
Yeah. And in startups, honestly, Amy, that one bad hire could sink the whole ship, right? It's magnified when you're working in that .com world, in the startup world that we're in today.
We can say startups now. I mean, let's not age me. I mean, come on. That was just a fun fact from the history.
We're not that far off in age, I don't think. I think because I just like saying funny things. Now I just want to call them .coms again.
I mean, if you're a 70s baby, I will let you do it. If you are not a 70s baby, you're not allowed to do it.
We're calling them startups. All right, let's leave it at that.
You do you, whatever you want. Look, I always say this: what's old is new. If you want to resurrect the .com, I'm here for it. I will support it. I will get you through it. So we will do whatever you want to do.
Are you wearing the wide legs again? Wide leg jeans?
How did you know what? This is going to be a first.
Let's see it.
Yes, I am.
Is that wide leg over an UGG?
No, it's wide leg over a little baby suede boot from Sam Edelman, if anybody would like to know.
Oh, I like that. Our listeners love specificity. Thank you so much. If you want to wear the Amy Volas special, here it is. So you'd mentioned kind of how you're solving it a little bit differently. How would you recommend pitching yourself to stand out and get the next role? Let's say you're a CS or a sales leader. I know we get a couple of those that are listening.
Well, and Brian, it's not just sales or CS leader. You could be a founder and your business is folding. Now you got to go find a job. I don't care who it is. This is going to apply. It's the basics. And I know that that is a nebulous thing. So let me quantify it in the spirit of being specific. One, it sounds super basic, but it makes a big difference that you've actually prepared, that you've done your homework, that you know what the company does, that you know why you're interested in this, that you understand what the job description is, that you can connect those dots, that you read the instructions. And so many people just kind of wing it, and that shows up. And so one of the ways to stand out is you look at a job description or you see what they're talking about online, and that is your zone of excellence, your zone of genius. And you make it easy for them to understand where you did it, why you did it, what you did, what the outcome was, how you did it, with whom you did it with. And you can do that in really easy sound bites. And the most important thing that you do is the so up factor. Why should they care? And that sounds, it rolls off my tongue so easily. It's really hard to do. But when you can do that and you prepare and you're super turned on by what they're talking about and what they're doing, and you weave that in, you automatically stand out. Now, the other thing that you can do is, let's say you're in the interview process and you know that there are other people, and there might be other people that are more qualified for the job, but you still have a shot. It's understanding that every single email, every single engagement, every single request, every single step in the interview process, conversation, text,
every touch point.
There are so many missed opportunities where, for example, let's say I invite you in for the final round and it's a presentation or it's a request for going through a case together or whatever it might be. And you have an agenda that's sent to you and there's a little asterisk that says, hey, if you have any questions, let me know. It is such a missed opportunity because it's a chance for you to show them you've listened to them, you understand the task. Here's how you're thinking about it. Am I missing anything? This is how. Yes.
Yeah.
The lion's share of people are like, nope, I got it. And then they show up and they just pitch. And you mentioned a really interesting word in the question. How would you pitch yourself? Stop pitching. The emphasis of this is to seek alignment. And the best interviews do just that. And so when I think about how this all shakes out, every opportunity that you engage or touch point is a chance chance to lean in, is a chance to collaborate, is a chance to understand the quality of your questions determines the quality of the outcome in the conversation. And by the way, it's not just about getting the job, it's about confirming or denying if you're truly aligned. Because if you're not aligned, it's going to get gnarly later anyway. And if you're, okay, sorry, Apple.
That's cool. I don't know. I think that's a new thing.
It's a new thing if you have an Apple. And if you're like me and you're half Italian, you use your hands to talk, you get busted. Look at this one. Here we go. Watch. Ning. Okay. So there's that. I know. It's crazy.
Okay. The production value is already in there. Thank you so much, Amy.
We took it to a different level. But when it comes to, because I love a video message, but I think that oftentimes video is done poorly, where it's like you're doing something gimmicky and there's no punch that's packed. It's just a gimmick. So if you're going to
sometimes as a first touch point, you see a lot of that, because if it's a cold video and with the gimmicks and that's when I feel like it doesn't work out very well. So you can see that from a mile away.
Where I have somebody that has a mug that's white and they do a little scroll on it where it's like coffee chat, Amy. And it's like, no, I don't even know. I have no context. So context is always going to be the money shot, right? And so I think video is such a powerful way for following through after an interview. So I believe in gratitude. I believe in thank yous. I believe in follow throughs. And for anybody that comes down my street after this, that's like, well, nobody sends me a thank you. Guess what? You still have the ability to control what you get to control. And if you want to stand out and you're not getting a job, maybe try this. And so what's interesting about this is if I use video and I say, Brian, thank you so much. We talked about these 3 things. And out of those 3 things, I noticed that there was a common theme that I've seen in this last role. Here's how I solved it. And I want to leave you with that because we didn't get a chance to think about that. Either way, I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for the time. And I hope that this was useful as you think about our conversation together. Now you're standing out. Now you're showing me that you showed up to the conversation. You understand what we talk about. Your wheels are turning and you're interested. You can't fake that.
You're just maximizing your opportunity to stand out, show that you're personal, get energy across as well. I think that's a really big part. I'm not a recruiter, but I've interviewed folks for companies. And when you see that energy in their eyes, I think that's a big differentiator as well. In addition to these things that you're talking about, taking advantage of those touch points. And like you said, video is a really good one to use instead of, hey, a thank you note should be sent in any way. I think they're all awesome. The majority of people don't do them. If you send one, whether it be an email or you hand wrote a note.
As it relates to handwritten cards, I have near me at any given time, these are blank cards. So whenever the mood strikes me, I always pick up a card and it's just, it makes someone's day to get something that you took time.
Absolutely.
And you match up a card that is super on point with the energy. So yes, cheers to the power of the handwritten word.
I know you're an LP at Stage 2, so you're privy to some pretty cool tech. We want to know from you is what is exciting out there in the B2B world that's come across lately? Any cool tech or trends?
So I'm going to pull up my .com history. And, it's a weird market right now. And it's a hard market for a lot of startups and a lot of companies in tech. And that bums me out to see. It's not like I'm excited about that. But what I am excited about, so there's always a silver lining, even when it's super hard. And the silver lining moment that I'm excited about is this is forcing an emphasis on the things that always mattered in terms of it's not just about net new. It's about the entire customer experience from cradle to grave. It's not just about whatever logo you can put up on the website. It's about keeping the logo and expanding the logo. And it's forcing this function around how do we do that well when I believe and have always believed, and this is the way that I roll, is that should always have been a priority. So watching companies really double down on that is very exciting to me in B2B. When it comes to technology, something that I'm really excited about, a dear friend of mine and someone that is a colleague and I admire and respect, and he's wicked sharp. His name is Alex Boyd. He created a piece of software called Aware. And for those of you that are like me, that prioritize time on LinkedIn, but are starting to deprioritize it as well, how do you approach that efficiently without being a bot? And the cool thing about Aware is it helps me only see what I want to see when I want to see it to be able to engage without getting sucked into the cesspool that can be social media. So Aware for the win.
We're getting back to what mattered most. That's what you're seeing in the trend trends in B2B. I think we're there because we're past the point where it's just like get users at all costs, close deals at all costs, because money is now thin. We can't just scale and get as many users as possible anymore. So we've had to double down. Last year, the years before, it's been like grow your user base, take care of what you can control, more or less. And that's led to more people kind of really doubling down and just more of the cradle to grave thing. It's not just a transaction anymore. It's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and good begets good. If you show up and take care of your customer, funny how they kind of show up and take care of you. Or I say this all the time, when you're interested, funny how you become interesting in turn.
That's how you have a good conversation with someone. You meet someone, and if you ask questions about them and you're really interested about them, the person that would ask the questions that you met, they'll be like, I found that person really interesting. When all you did was really talk about yourself, right, Amy? Amy, what talent do you have that you're not using? What's your world like in an alternate universe using that talent?
It's funny that you asked the question because I just used it today twice. I had a meeting with two partners at a VC here, and both sort of wrap ups of the meeting were how special and unmatched it is when you spend time in person with someone. And that's where the deepest connections are made. That's where I have the ability to connect with people. And I tend to be very present in those moments. When I'm meeting somebody, I'm not looking over their shoulder, waiting for the next best person to come up.
Or waiting to ask a question, before they,
Yeah. Or it's not just like about what I want to get out of it. And so I'm reminded of the power of that. And before I started my firm, I was on the road all the time and meeting with people. And that served me really, really well. And it's something that I'm really, really good at. And yet when you have a business, and I have a small business and I'm involved in a lot of it, I can't be ever. So let's take SaaStr, for example.
Yeah.
You were there, Ben. I was there. We didn't even get a chance to meet. And I had to make a choice of, is it SaaStr? Is it inbound? All these things were happening at once, and I can't be everywhere where I want to be at once. And so you have to make tough decisions about where you spend your time. But if I could wave a magic wand and tap more into that, I super, super would.
So you want to be omnipresent. Like you're so good at connecting with people one-to-one that you want to be able to be everywhere, but we only have one life and we only have one Amy, right?
And we only have 24 hours in a day. And sadly, I've got a bunch of other stuff I have to do. But think about this. I'm a hugger, and I've met so many people, and there are hugs. Today I met one of the partners for the first time. And when we were done, we hugged. And it's like that human connection you can't fake. And both meetings went over time and like super in it and just digging in. And I can do that. I connect with people really well online and other places, but it's not the same as when you're together. And that's the jam.
I love that. And I've been seeing a lot of, we live at home. I work remotely, and I rarely get to see work-related folks in person, maybe once every 6 weeks or so, right? You see everywhere that, okay, if you work at home, of course, the importance of seeing people and touching them and hugging them. It reminds me of kind of when people say that you need to get out and take your shoes off and walk around in the grass.
Get grounded. Yep.
I only just recently started hearing about that. And when I went back home to go see my family, I did it in the front. I kind of just laid down. I was running around my knees. I laid down on the grass and I felt something. It was obviously happiness, but kind of touching the grass and grounding myself. Maybe because I wasn't aware of it beforehand. And now that I'm thinking about it, it feels more, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, this could be a totally different podcast episode in and of itself. I am all about Reiki. And when I think about energy and nature, so for example, I have a thing with birds, and I'm looking out of my window and I have 4 bird feeders in front of me.
Yeah.
And
beautiful. Love it.
It could be whatever. I try to get out, and just, even if I can't be laying on the ground because I'm in a more urban environment or whatever the case is, just walking where you can touch the bark of a tree, or if you walk through the woods and just listen to the wind through leaves, that is energy. And all of that is alive around you. And it reminds you that there are so many other things that are bigger than just us. And especially in this world where things are harder, whether it's the market, whether it's war, whether it's whatever it might be. I could go on and on and on, or it could be social media.
Thank you so much, Amy.
You're welcome.
What would you do if you weren't afraid?
If I wasn't afraid, I would have been James Bond, and I would be James Bond now. And I get super geeked out. So when my husband and I are like, we can never agree on anything to watch, ever. But the one thing that we can agree on is anything that has to do with secret spy stuff, serial killers, murder, forensic files. Like, we are here for all of it. And I get sucked in. And so if I wasn't afraid, I would probably not bank on the work that I do. And I'd either do that or I would start a restaurant. My kind of cathartic creative outlet is my Volas Test Kitchen, and food is love. And it's how I show love for people that spend time with me, and I really get a kick out of it. And I would start some sort of like open chef's table, kind of Emily in Paris. And
Oh,
not
you're gonna do an Emily in Paris is gonna pop up right here.
Not the dynamic between Emily and the chef. I'm just saying, like, his little bistro where you can see him in the kitchen and it's small and it's quaint and it's all of that. Yes, I would do that.
I love this aesthetic. I'm going for that now. I don't know if we call it love language. How I show my gratitude, my emotion, my love for people is I cook food for them as well. Amy, what purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
My husband and I went to France. I decided to do a bike tour last minute, and I met some of the most remarkable, fascinating, interesting, inspirational people, and it was amazing.
A bike, just getting, say, I'm going to buy in and go on this little bike route, and you found all those awesome people. I love that. I'm going to France, I guess. Amy, if these past 5 years of your life were a chapter, what would they be about?
It would be a masterclass on working harder than you could ever imagine, and really at a different level than you ever dreamed, and the benefits that came from that, and then the risks and the downside.
Okay. Well, we're going to dig into more of that as we all begin to follow Amy on social media. Thank you so much for answering that one. Amy, what is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love? What makes you weird?
Windex.
Windex. I just use some for these.
I love me a Windex bottle. Okay, so here's the thing. Fun fact. When I was a child, and nobody better come for my mother with this because I'm super cool with this, people, so calm down. But when I was a child, if I wanted allowance, my mom was like, you have to clean. And I'm not even talking about like undoing a dishwasher. I would have to clean a full room.
Amazing.
My mother would do this to make sure that I got it right, the white glove treatment. And I'm not kidding you. And if there was dust, I'd have to clean it again. So I have this uncanny obsession, not just with Windex, but with cleaning products. But at the same time, there's a metaphor for it. And it's actually on my LinkedIn profile that I am obsessed with Windex. That if you think about, so like I'm looking out the window right now at my bird feeders, and I am surrounded by 3 walls of windows. And if there are watermarks on there, or there's like some sort of smudge, it bothers me because I can't see what I want to see the way I want to see it. And so if you think about the power of Windex or getting Windex clear, and this is a metaphor for anything, when you're clear, everything and everyone else around you is clear. For interviews, for sales, for marketing, for investing, for whatever it might be, clarity is king.
Oh, I like that. I feel like it could be the answer to our final question, the Billboard question. Amy, if you could have a billboard with anything on it, I'm paying for it. Everyone's going to drive by it every single day and read it. What would it be and why?
Celebrate the small wins to get to the big one. I think we have lost sight of the bigger picture and the long game and the power of that. And there's a lot of react instead of think, instead of consider, instead of maybe I want this right now and I should have it and I deserve it, and taking action on it. And then you realize later, whoa, wait a second, that actually hurt me, or that didn't pan out the way I thought it would. And especially when I think about building a business, sustaining a business, building a sales pipeline, building a marketing career, like whatever it is, it's hard. And whether you are a founder or you're just getting involved in your career in any role around it, you can't skip ahead to be excellent. And excellence really does create opportunities. And when I think about what has made me excellent, or any of the things that I've ever been excellent at, it required rigor, it required time, it required commitment to that. And there are no shortcuts. And so I think about the power of the long game, and I think about the power of stopping, thinking, reflecting, does it make sense? And not just for right now, but what would happen in 6 months from now? What would happen in 3 years from now? What would future Amy be proud of or disappointed in? Especially in enterprise sales, which is where I grew up. All those small wins lead up to the big win. You can't just focus on the big thing. You got to think about all the little steps to get there. Celebrate those as you think about the big thing too.
Yeah, gratuity leads into all that. And again, that could be its own thing. Amy, thank you so much for joining us on I'm Not Selling You Anything. I thought we had a really good conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate you. This was fun.